right, well, hello everyone. Today is March 11th, 2021, and I promised that I would do a live stream today. I can't promise how long it's going to last, but I thought I should go ahead and come on and we can discuss a few things. I'll try to have some interaction with you on the chat here. It's an interesting day, to say the least, and you probably wonder why I labeled this, why I titled this Your Expiration Date. I was actually going to be a little bit more courageous in stating, I thank you for letting me know it's 5 by 5, but it's still best to veil our language to some extent so that we can continue to communicate until we get some sort of an alternate platform if we can. Which you already know about on LBRY Odyssey. I'm there, but they don't have live streaming capability yet, and I don't know that they ever will. And I'm not really into using BitChute or the others for reasons that I really can't go on and explain here. But I'm just not. Yeah. There were some problems with LBRY. I know, JustCon. But at any rate, we just have to use what we have available to us. So again, hello everyone as you come in. I'll try to be a little less verbose today on what I have to say so that we can get to some chat. There are some problems with the internet connection, so this may be buffering or there may be some other problems. It may just cut out altogether. Just in case that happens, just know that we gave it our best, okay? All right, the first thing I want to bring up is in the description box below. If you listen to Monograph's live stream last night, he explained that he is coming out with a website where he's going to be able to speak his mind and not have to guard his language, censor himself. And I just want to go on and tell everybody that he's doing this. Again, it's in the description box below, and it's called youstooge.com. And I think his idea is great. I hope it catches on and it goes like crazy. He's promised not to have commercials or try to sell you things and stuff like that, which is nothing wrong with that. For the people that have to do that, I understand. But he doesn't want to do that for whatever reason. I don't do it because I felt like it would interfere with the message that I did have. As it was, I was attacked for saying that I was trying to make money off of what I was doing rather than truly trying to give the message out. And so that's the reason why I haven't, and I haven't to this day. And really, it's probably a good thing in the long run because I kind of had a feeling that YouTube and these others would start to censor people and demonetize them. And I was absolutely correct. That did happen. So I would have hated to have gotten myself into a situation where I was even looking forward, if not dependent on that income, and then have it turned off. So I never did it, and I'm sure happy that I didn't. Plus, I hope it's made what I have to say more believable, more concerning, that it's more authentic. I guess I sure hope so. I hope so. Okay, so that's the first thing I wanted to bring up is Monograph's youstooge.com. I'm not sure when he'll have it up and running, but I want you to be aware of it so that, and you can go to his YouTube channel and he'll tell you, of course, that's the Monograph channel, and he can tell you when it's actually up and running. But I think it's going to be fairly quick. He and a webmaster have been working on it, and I'm pretty sure that it's going to be Pipkin 50. Yeah, I have no hidden agenda. I really don't. My agenda is to share my experience, to share my education, to share my training, and try to make sense of it all. That's really all I do. And considering where I've been, who I've rubbed elbows with, the subject matter I've studied, uh, all of that, I just figured it was something I should do. And it was also, as I've explained to so many people over the years now, that I felt like I had karma to pay back. And I know that's not necessarily a good term for, some people, they don't like that term, but I think it describes, my actually it turned out to be 34 years. I said it was 28. It was actually 34 years serving this evil government. And so I've been trying to make amends for that. I know the when you talk about Christian values and Christian beliefs and things like that, I know that the grace of God, covers a lot of sin. I know that, but we're still supposed to try to make amends. And so there we are. That's why I'm doing this. So there you go. Monographs usage is the first thing I wanted to bring up. Keep track of that. I think it's going to be an outrageously great show, and I hope that it catches on. And I hope that more people will emulate those types of things because we really need it. These major platforms, even the alternative ones, like LBRY, I really like it. I really appreciate what they've done, but it really has some limitations, as most of you know who've gone there. Okay, running to the next topic real quick, we wanted to talk about, Trump came out with a statement the other day. If you all have been following me on Twitter, and if I had my computer set up and I could do this on my computer, I could show you copies of it, but I can't do it on my phone. He came out with a statement saying he hopes that everybody remembers that he was the one who got the vaccines going, and I shouldn't have even said that already. Okay, that Trump is the one who got the GMI going, and we need to remember that. And I wrote down how upset I am about all of this. And yes, we do need to hold him accountable. Yes, we do need to hold him responsible because already these things are turning downward, if you know what I mean. I reported on LBRY the other day about people that are suffering as a result of these things. And it's going to continue and it's going to get worse. And it is, as I've called it, a dual. I used another term, but I'm going to use this. It has dual characteristics so that it can act on you on different levels. So if you haven't seen that video that I talked about that, go on my LBRY and you'll find it. But at any rate, Trump is bragging about his doing the GMI, which is a fact. And of course, we have all of these governors and Republicans and Democrats all bragging about it, all wanting to take, credit for this or that, but they're not going to take credit for those who suffer. Yes, 10 Pennies Research. Thank you. I'm bringing that up. Doreen, thank you very much. And I'd like to talk about that more specifically here, but you know that I can't. All right, you know that that's not possible. So we have to talk in parables. By the way, if you ever wonder why Jesus talked in parables, why did he just spit out the information? It's because of this very thing. This is very similar to what was happening in his day. So he had to guard his words. So if he had to guard his words, how much more, unfortunately, do people like myself have to guard ours? I'm not afraid of getting thrown off. I just feel that the message is important enough that we need to try to protect it. So that's the only reason why I do it, and that's why I opened up LBRY at the encouragement, by the way, of Nancy Morgan Hart of Headlines with a Voice. She pushed me on that, and I really am grateful for her doing that. She's very kind to always look out for me in that regard, and all of her work is so much appreciated. I hope you all follow her. Okay. All right. The next thing I wanted to bring up real quick before we go, this actually 2 or 3 things. We've talked about in the scripture where it talks about famines, and it says that in the last days there will be a famine, not of food and drink, but of the hearing of the word of the Lord, or the hearing of the word of God. Now, I just want to point out that most famines that occur in the world, almost all of them, by the way, there have been a few exceptions, but historically, most of the famines that have occurred have not occurred because they didn't have seed time or harvest. It was because of political persecution, political warfare, political corruption. Those are the things that have caused most of the famine in the world historically. For example, the siege of Jerusalem and the famine that was caused there was because of the Roman siege of Jerusalem. A really good example. Siege warfare in the past, where they cut off your logistics, your food, and your water. It's warfare that causes most famine. Well, of course, today we're having a famine of the word of truth because of why? They're doing siege warfare against us, not in just cutting off our food supplies and everything that's going on in the world right now with this supposed great reset, but also in the hearing of truth, in the hearing of things that help you to make up your mind about what you're concerned with, right? Freedom of speech, the liberty aspect of that. And so there is this siege warfare going on against us in the form of censorship, which is causing, by the political establishment and their cronies, a famine of the hearing of the Word of God. Now, you can talk about it being sermons, you can talk about it being biblical, or you can talk about it as I have defined it, the perfect law of liberty. Talking about the Word of God, the hearing of the Word of God being the perfect law of liberty, which in fact is the true definition of the gospel, if you want to know. And I've talked about that in many, many videos. And I'm not going to get into the particulars of that here, but just to let you know that it's a political decision that this is happening. It's not by accident, just like the food and water famines are usually not an accident. Look at the situation in the San Joaquin Valley in California, where they cut off all the water supply to so many of the farmers and ranchers there, and it's caused such a devastation in the agriculture. That was a political decision based upon a little fish supposedly that was in danger of being extinct, but that was all made up primarily. Even if it were true, I mean, it goes back to, who's important here? You're going to extinguish the lives of human beings in exchange? Is that what you're talking about? Well, for these demons that are running the world, that's exactly what they want. Hence the title of this video, okay? Again, because they're planning on giving you your expiration date. That's in the works right now. I talked about a young lady who suffered the end of her life the other day on LBRY. I talked about that. And those things, they always have excuse for them. And of course, it had to do with the RUS. Is that what it? RUYS. You read between the lines there, and you'll know what I'm talking about. It's one of the terms that Monty coined, which is really good. So they're doing this causing of the famine of hearing the Word of God by censorship, education in their educational institutions, the way that they're changing how they are trying to manipulate the minds, of course, training, and then policy as well, all of those. And the last thing I'll talk about this morning, I mean, there are hundreds of things we could talk about. We could talk about how bad Biden's doing, the whole situation at the border, the whole situation around D.C. with the military occupation. I told you that was coming. I told you they were going to start this military occupation, and the military would not have the guts to stop it. And the state governors should be recalling their National Guard, and they're not. Few have. Texas did. But then we go, Greg Abbott is an aberration to me, and then he goes off on some other anti-Semitic claims and stuff. I mean, the guy's paralyzed more than just in his legs. He's got some other paralysis. And most of these people, I think, have bowed down to the evil satanic influences anyway. I really believe that. I mean, everything points to it. It's all been choreographed. It's all happening at the same time. They're in lockstep. Have you ever heard that term before? Of course you have, and that's exactly what's happening. That's never happened before in the world. So there's some evil force behind the scene that's doing this. Absolutely, absolutely. I watched David Knight's program this morning. He always does a great job, and I just wanted to give him a shout out. Please, follow him. The Periscope broadcasts on Twitter are going to go away this month, so make sure that you get his other platforms, and you can get that by going to thedavidknightshow.com. Okay, just so you know. But go there now while he's still on Periscope and get that information so you can watch him. But today, he had on a guest whose name is Steven Schellenberger, and he was the star. And I think he underwrote it to some extent. I'm not sure if he was a producer or not, but he's pushing it very strongly. A movie called The Spark, and it's about this entire military industrial complex spying apparatus and surveillance apparatus, and how they manipulate people, even getting into aspects of MK Ultra and things like that. It was a very interesting interview, and I have to tell you, he mentioned a topic. He mentioned a situation that happened to him that I have no doubt was true, because it happened to me. Actually, two different situations. And I can't get into it much here because I'm still trying to protect the identity of some of these people, because even though they were responsible, two or three of them, maybe a handful, were responsible for allowing this thing to happen to me. The fact of the matter is that I'm not certain that they did it out of malice. I'm concerned that they did it because they either didn't know any better, or they were being controlled by outside forces. And I'm going to talk to David Knight about this. I wrote him this morning on Twitter, and I'm going to talk to him about it and see what he thinks, because I trust his judgment as to how far I should go with this. But it involves MK Ultra. It involves contacts with people in Hollywood, not my own, but the people that were dealing and doing some of these things to me, and also, of course, the intelligence community and etc. So anyway, go listen to that interview. I'm sure he'll put it up on a separate post on one of his platforms. It's the interview with Steven Schellenberger. Steven is spelled Stephen. Schellenberger is capital Schellenberger. And again, it talks about surveillance, behavior modification, behavior control, and he talks about several things that I can attest to are in fact things that are being done to people who try to dissent or try to tell the truth. At least try to search the truth out and open it up in a free exchange communication forum. And that's why they're cutting down these free interchange communication forums, because they don't want us talking about these things, right? Like I noticed David Knight saying this morning, they want us talking about Biden. I think Steven Schellenberger said this too. They want us talking about Biden, not the fact that they're selling our birthright down the tube, and that not just our rights, but the birthright of our lands and our wealth are being taken from us in exchange for a $1,400 check. Now, what did I say when all this started out last year? Actually, since Trump's been in office, I gave him a year. And even then I was going back and forth. But I gave him a year. And all he did was offer us a bowl of porridge for our birthright. That's all he did the entire time. And I'm very upset with the people that were in a position to get to the White House and try to influence him and didn't. If they honestly got there and they couldn't make a dent in him because he had his agenda, okay, well, say that. Say, I tried, but he didn't listen. Be courageous, but so many of these weren't. And I'm not going to name names here, but we've had some on Twitter. I've had some interaction with some of these people, and the guy that ended up calling names, I'm the one that gets the name calling done to me, because I ask them why they didn't hold Trump's feet to the fire. But regardless, that's to be expected. This left-right paradigm has been with us for a long time, and people talk a nice story about it. They talk about how bad it is, but when it comes right down to it, they're right in with it in the end. And they call it political expedience. You gotta be pragmatic, Roy. You can't go out there and do these things. You'll lose all ability to change anything. Well, that's also a position of a coward. Okay, I'm sorry, but it is. I've been out in front of a lot of this stuff. Most of you who followed me over the years know that, not just in doing videos, but being on the ground in different places. For instance, I went down to the Vax place here the other day, right? I shouldn't say that. the GMI place here the other day, and showed you what was happening there. And then talked about the situation with these people that are suffering as a result, both individuals and entire families. Okay, so anyway, I'll leave that there. I just wanted to give that information. So I'm going to jump to chat here now, and I don't know how long we'll be able to do this. I've noticed that occasionally YouTube will cut it off, and then it will never load up. Okay, and that's a really bad thing. It'll stay on processing forever and never get loaded up. So that might happen. So this may not actually end up on my YouTube channel for any length of time, or on LBRY if they do that to us today. Okay, and it's very possible. So if you have who is Monograph, go on YouTube and look up Monograph, Montagraph. He goes by the nickname Monty. That's not his real name. I know his real name, and he's told us what his real name is, both his birth name and his other name that he has. But there are reasons he's done that. He's been right on with a lot of things for a long time. None of us are 100% correct, but the general concept of what's happening and the direction that these elites are taking us he's right on. And so I'm very happy to see that he's going to do youstooge.com, and he's actually going to, well, part of the process of this website that he has that he's going to be doing is what he calls a 334. In other words, he's gonna call up. He's gonna have some people verify the numbers of different political figures and corporate figures and people that are actually at war with us. Verify the number and then give it out so that we can all call. And he'll do it live as well. So it's really, really cool. Okay. All right. So that's who he is. Yeah, go look that up. Let's see, what was that now? Yes, mandatory before May. It's science. Yeah. Well, their claims are always, you're fighting the science. No, science is debate. Science isn't belief. That you have to believe the science. That's antithetical to science. Science is about debate. It's about skepticism. Okay, Richard Morris, what are my thoughts of the border crisis? It's a problem. I did a YouTube documentary on that. It's on this channel. You can go to my playlists, and under films and documentaries, there's a documentary there called Borders, Mexican Drug War or Insurgency. I was talking about all of this back in 2011 and how they were blaming what they were doing on the war on drugs, when in reality, and it is the drugs, is the method of the insurgency that they use. But then we saw, and I was right down there during the entire thing with the transfer of weapons. I don't want to say it on here, the name, but you should know what I'm talking about. The transfer of weapons into Mexico, that whole thing that Obama and the AG at the time were involved in, and the ATF. So I was down there when that was happening, and I talked about it. So the border crisis is a major problem, especially when they're telling us that we're going to get shut down like they are in Britain and in Germany and in Israel in particular, and these other nations where they're really pushing this entire fiasco. Please read between the lines. They want to bring it here, and they're going to eventually, just as draconian, even though the governors are fighting it. Some of them, they're not going far enough. They're cutting off some of the restrictions, but they're going ahead with the GMI, and they're bragging about it. And that's the end game. And we've talked about how dangerous that is and where that's going. If you're not caught up on that, go to my channel and look at that. Both here and on LBRY, and you can go to Monograph, and you can go to Headlines of the Voice, and a bunch of others. As far as a little deeper on that, they're demanding that we follow all these things, and yet they're allowing people to come across the border. They might be checking them, doing the tests, but that doesn't stop them from letting them in. And it's really strange because the HIV situation, if you remember back when that became an issue, and of course Fauci was pushing that at the time. And Kelly Mullis said you couldn't use the PCR test to link HIV and AIDS. He says that that's not possible, but Fauci did it anyway because he wanted to come out with his AZT. If you all know what that is, you'll have to go look it up, and I'm not going to talk about it that much on here. But the point is that they used that whole HIV thing for control, monetary stuff, and all that. But you remember what especially California did. California passed a law that says you can't discriminate against somebody, keep them from a job, or ask them about their HIV situation or any of those things, which kind of goes along with the HIPAA laws. But supposedly it was such a dangerous epidemic, right? It was supposedly so dangerous. So they did that with the HIV thing where you couldn't discriminate against it. But now they're talking about if you don't have the GMI, the RUYS, that you're going to be kept from going and doing normal human activity, going to the store, going to the theaters, all that business, a job, all that. Well, what happened to the rights of the HIV people that should transfer to anybody? So this is just a new way. This is just a new way of identifying people who don't want to go along with the system. It's basically the yellow star on the minority. Let's put it that way, okay, in Germany in the 1930s and 40s. It's the same process, and the same people are running it. Remember Operation Paperclip. All of this that you're seeing is the flowering, is the is the development of that same system that was they're all authoritarian, whether they're called National Socialism or communism. It's all really the same thing. It's all totalitarianism, authoritarianism, evil. Doesn't matter what the name is. You look at the fruits, and the fruits tell you what it really is. Okay? All right. Yeah, Monograph Live channel. That's good. Let's go on down here and see what we've got here. Is Monograph here? I see people saying hi to him, but I'm talking rather than watching the. Now, I'm not going to be able to answer a whole lot of. Roy's eyes are yellow as butter. Yeah, it's the lighting in here. Okay, I'm using a soft white light there, and I have another light over here. The problem is that I can't do a white balance on my camera. I just can't. So I always look a little red when I use these lights. It helps when I back the camera up, but if I do that too far on my phone, which is what I'm using here, then the sound quality of the voice goes down. So this is kind of a compromise. So yeah, I look really red and yellow, but I'm really not. Okay, it's just the lighting. All right. Rob Olson is being evil on the chat. Okay, well let's see. Do I have any mods here? I haven't seen Rob Olson, but I learned how to throw them off. These people here not too long ago. I learned how to throw them off. So let me see if I can find. I don't want to waste a lot of time for it. It looks like I don't have any mods on here to do it for me. But if a mod comes on and you see Rob Olson, it's really hard for me to make any kind of adjustments when I'm using my phone, or tagging people and throwing them off or whatever. Okay. Okay, I'll find him later. Walter's asking, what's your thoughts on prisoners, etc., receiving $1,400 checks? It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. But remember, this is all designed to bankrupt us, to put us under control. That's all it's about. I mean, hell, they took these people out of jails and out of prisons back, a year ago, to say because it's not safe for them to be there because of the VIRUS, right? And then what did they do? They started arresting mothers in playgrounds who weren't wearing the MASKs, right? Right? Beating people up, throwing them down. I just saw a thing that happened, I think it was in Germany. No, it was in Canada, where they beat this guy silly. The cure is worse than the disease ever would have been. I put out not too long ago, read between the lines, you have less than 1% chance of dying from the VIRUS. Less than 1% chance. If you take the GMI, it's now up to, you have a 6% chance of having your expiration date met. And that doesn't count all of the other adverse effects. So them receiving this money, it just shows that you're the enemy, that you're considered as unnecessary as they are. And actually they're more necessary because they help to add chaos and disrupt the system. So it's absurd. It's the same thing as the border crisis. Not that there's anything wrong with people wanting to come and make a living, but we have to have a process. And if health is such a big deal, why are we letting people come across with TB, leprosy, right, etc.? All right, so very, very bad. We can defeat these people with Jesus' Kabbalah. So I'm not against you there, Sniff. I think that's interesting because in reality, the ancient Hebrews, up to and including Jesus' time, did use a form. They didn't call it Kabbalah at that point. The word Kabbalah didn't really come in until after the destruction of the Jewish temple in 70 A.D. And specifically with the Kabbalah mystics that showed up around the first century, Rabbi Akiva, or second century, first century too, Rabbi Akiva and those. And I've talked about that a little bit, but in reality it was Hekalot, just so you know. Hekalot means chambers. It means ascending through the different heavens, I'll put it that way, and using the sacred names of God and his attributes for the different layers, and that's a whole different thing. Kabbalah, the way it first started out, just so you know, was just using the letters to meditate upon the Hebrew letters and to try to understand the meanings of the scriptures by interpreting how the letters relate inside the words that are used. And that's how I use it. I don't use it like Aleister Crowley did, okay? I don't do the 777 stuff that Aleister Crowley put out. That's not Kabbalah to me. That's witchcraft, okay? That's a whole other thing. But they call it that. Kabbalah means to receive. That's all it means. It means to receive. And Jesus said the same thing. He said, they came and asked because he was talking in parables. And he says, and they said, well, what are you talking about? He says, well, it's not given to them to know. Okay, I don't want them to know. Like I'm saying here, we're talking in kind of clouded terms. I don't want the AI to catch on, the algorithm, as Monty will talk about. But to you, it is given to know these things. So you're going to receive them. That's all Kabbalah means. And it's just been used. The Talmudic, well, it was even before the Talmud, but the mystics after the destruction of the temple, those who would have been prophets in ancient times, changed the system because they had lost the implements of Moses and the sacred implements that they could use to purify themselves before they ascended through the different heavens in their meditations. When those things were lost, they couldn't use those words anymore of God, so they transferred to using the meanings of the letters. That's all that happened there. Okay, but yeah, I use the Jesus Kabbalah. I think that's a good way to go. You all are having a good conversation. Sniff, I was being sarcastic. Well, maybe you were being sarcastic, but you hit on a truth in your sarcasm, and I just told you about it. So you're not quite where you think you are. Okay, you're not quite where you think you are. Yeah, Blessed 1611. Yeah, as David and I talked about this morning, all the money, very little money is actually going to the people, just like this problem has been the case all along. It's going to the big corporations and the banks. Yeah, we've said that before, of course. Liza Jean, I haven't seen you here. Thanks for being here. If you're here, I guess there's a guy by the name of Ron Olson that's been naughty. I can't find him now, but if you can find him, I've been told that he should get thrown off. Oh, Sally's here. Hi, Sally. Nice to see you too. Liza Jean saying hi to you. I didn't know that either one of you were on here, of course, because I've been running my mouth instead of watching this. Okay. Hi, Amy. Nice to see you too. Thank you for telling me about Ron Olson. I just don't see him. Maybe somebody already, maybe one of the mods already threw him off here. I'm not sure. Jesus abolished the priesthood. Yeah, I'm not going to get into a religious discussion, Mike. No, he actually didn't. What does the New Testament say? The New Testament says that Jesus is our high priest, and we're supposed to be high priests and kings as well. There's a difference between the Aaronic priesthood and the priesthood of Melchizedek, because God said to Jesus, it's in Psalms and it's also in the New Testament, that I will make you a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. That's very important, and it has to do with a lot of the events of the last days. The Aaronic priesthood wasn't really done away with. It's just that how could I say this? It became more of a thing of heart and mind and faith than it did of genealogy. But I'm not going to get into all that here. I think there's a little bit too much to go into that right now. I'd like to do that, Blessed 1611, stop for lunch in Idaho. Yeah, and I go through Idaho quite a bit. As a matter of fact, I just went there not too long ago. Oh, good. So Liza Jean's got rid of Bob. Thank you, Liza Jean. Amy's saying thank you and thank you. I don't even know what he did. I don't know. Semantics, Roy. We get it. Don't worry. Thank you, Robert. I appreciate that. Yeah, exactly right, Chuck. In the end times, there will be a famine, not so much of food or drink, but of God's word. That's exactly right. That's what we're seeing. Like I said, most famines are due to political things, right? Wars. Kissinger said that they would use food as a weapon, and of course they always have. It's just that now it's in a different way, but the result is the same. Yeah, Lucy, good. Daniel 11 and 12, read it exactly, and it describes what the Antichrist is like, what his attribute. well, that's the wrong word, what his characteristics are, what his persona is like. And that's why I say that Trump is very close to that. If Trump isn't the AC, he learned the way to be from the AC. It's all there. I mean, even the events that have gone on with him fighting all these different factions and stuff, it's all right in Daniel 11 and 12. You all really ought to go read it. And remember, when these ancient prophets like Daniel or Ezekiel and even John the Revelator are seeing events of the last days, of course they're using some metaphors, of course, but a lot of it's because how would you describe modern technology or the way these wars are fought these days? For instance, who would have thought that the Great Reset is actually a war against all mankind? Right? This is warfare, and so how would you describe that? Well, I think that's the reason why it's sometimes hard to understand the ancient prophets. Yeah, yeah. Can you believe it? Tulsi Gabbard just destroyed Kamala Harris during the Democratic debates. Just destroyed her, and now here she is, the vice president. You see how they work. You see how this corruption and this evil works. Um, yeah. Now that's another thing, Stephen Miller. Are you the guy from the White House? Probably not, right? Yeah, it says there's a scripture and it bears some. And there's been a lot of arguments about this, and I don't want to go there, but Isaiah talks about it, and he says, and as for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. If you're Christian, Judeo-Christian, um, or have those roots, uh, your the idea of men and women having specific roles in life are important. And from the very beginning, I'm not saying that women aren't smart. A lot of them are a hell of a lot smarter than me. My wife was a hell of a lot smarter than me. She had Jewish roots too, by the way. She was Hungarian with Jewish roots, um, Roman Catholic at the time that I met her. But at any rate, uh, you know, a lot of women are smart, but they look at things from a different perspective. So that always adds in. And so what it becomes is, of course, when you get married, however you view that, the man and woman should balance each other. And a man who doesn't listen to the counsel of his wife is foolish. But it goes the other way too. A woman who doesn't listen to the counsel of her husband is foolish. So it has to be a team effort. But in my estimation, yeah, the woman should never be an authority. But you know how that goes, Stephen, right? Yeah, yeah. They want you to do something, so they put you in a position where you kind of make the decision that they want. I've seen that happen a lot of times. I really have. Yeah, Marsha, I've heard the same thing, and it's possible, but that could be a problem for them. So I'm not certain that'll happen. I think they might say it's that when they use the what do I want to say, the compound events that'll make it look like that, and it's really not. I think they'd have a hard time controlling it. All right. Gary, I don't know if Hillary's going to make it into the White House or not. It really doesn't matter. The damage is already done. We're going down. Trump made sure of that. I don't give Trump any leeway anymore. Like I said, I gave him that first. And you say, well, why do you keep talking about him? He's not president anymore. Because he's not out of the picture yet. And what he did is still influencing, and what he failed to do is still influencing us and is going to take us down. It's going to destroy us. Is David Knight on Bandot Video? No, no. He was totally taken off of Infowars. They wouldn't even give him his. There was another, I forget what it was, but he was asking them to give him access to some account that was just his. They didn't even do that. They're using it. So no, he's right now he's on Twitter. You can go to Twitter. He's also on DLive, although they've had some problems with DLive. He's on Rumble, I think. I can't remember. Go to thedavidknightshow.com, and all of his places where he is on there, but he's not on Band.video anymore, no. Yeah, it is lunchtime. Yeah, it's getting there with me too. Charlie Bears, that's good. Yeah, I understand that your gematria that you're doing there, and you're looking up the words. This thing has a lot of intimations on a lot of levels, and that's exactly how, of course, the elites are, and the Luciferians. That's how they are. They like their codes. They like, and that's not a cute quote. I've known that for years. That's why I studied Kabbalah, so that I would know what they were doing, because they use an evil form of it. So yeah, you're right. Not you, Roy, the other guy. Okay, Bob Olson is the bad guy. Yeah, and he's gone. I guess Liza Jean threw him off. I see somebody saying, Marfugel's Gold is saying, throw Mrs. Cat a wrench. I got to get to know her a little bit first, okay? So, Ms. Cat, whoever you are, send me a DM on Twitter if you have Twitter. Just send me a DM and tell me who you are, and let me look at things, because I made a mistake on that once before. It's nothing against you. It's just that I got to be a little careful these days. Okay, that's all. Nothing against you. It's a vetting process, okay? So that's all it is. Okay. Yeah, Yeshua is our high priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. That's right. Under God's own voice, that was declared. Yes. Uh, John the Baptist was the last Aaronic priest. Eh, there are disagreements with that. Technically, you're probably right, but the aspects of the Aaronic priesthood were incorporated into the Melchizedek priesthood. James talks about that to some extent. I don't want to get into it here. Um, some of the aspects of the carnal commandments, the carnal laws that were added after the Ten Commandments, most of those that were added were a schoolmaster, because the people have been. I mean, they saw the glory of God, and then they built the golden calf. By the way, in case you didn't know, the golden calf was a symbol of Joseph of Egypt. You probably didn't know that, did you? They built the golden calf because they were worshiping Joseph of Egypt. That's what they were doing. A lot of people don't know that's what was going on, but that's what it was, because Joseph of Egypt had done so much for his family, the Israelites. And when the Hyksos, Joseph of Egypt being one of those, the Hebrews were kicked out of power, and the southern kingdom came up and took over, and then then enslaved the Israelites. Because what, and I talked about this before, what did Joseph of Egypt do? He enslaved all of the Egyptians to Pharaoh. And I used that analogy here not too long ago. I showed how they're using Joseph's way of extorting the people to get their property, their money, their loyalty. Well, Joseph of Egypt did that. It's one reason why he lost the birthright, and it went to his sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. And I'm not going to get into all that here, but what occurred was that when the time came for Moses, uh, you know, they had that problem with it. Was the southern kingdom had come up and then taken control again. I could get into all that, but I probably better not here today. That's just too much information. Have you seen the Trump Buddha? No, emergency exit. I haven't. No, I haven't. I saw him worshiping in front of it. Is that what you mean? Actually, when I first saw that, because it was in India, the resolution of the picture that I had, it wasn't really good. And I thought, wow, it's in India, so it's probably one of the Hindu gods, probably Vishnu, but it didn't have multiple arms and all that. But it was the resolution of the picture. Well, then Nancy Morgan Hart was the one that pointed out that it's Buddha. Yeah, she's so thorough. She's so thorough. So I did see the picture, and I understand wanting to show respect for other cultures, but not when you're not showing respect for your own. And he was very good with rhetoric and never came down on the ground. Oh, money wise, but then look how all that got turned around, because he put a bowl of porridge ahead of birthright. He put money ahead of principle. And I said that right from the start. It was the big thing that concerned me about Trump, was his lack of principle. So yeah, I did see him in front of the Buddha. I did. Find out when I tried to send money for dirty socks. Oh, they stopped your donation to Monty there, Liza Jean. Monty does a great show, doesn't he? he's, I, I love it the way he, he says, "That's a fact, Jack." All of his little sayings. It's just really cool the way he runs his show. I really like it. Yeah, he had a lot of lack of action. That's right. Well, well, well. The Lockhart perspective is here. Hi, Felicia. How you doing? Good to see you. I haven't done one of these in a while, and I wish I could do it more formally like I used to with the opening and the music and all that, but there's some problems right now, and so I'm not doing that. And I'm not sure I'll ever be able to get back to that format. I sure would like to, but thank you for being here. It's good to see you. Monty has googly eyes, especially when he puts on those glasses. Yeah. All right, let's see here. How long have we been going? 45 minutes. Notice I'm doing this during the InfoWars time because I won't do it during David Knight, and I try not to do it during Monty's live streams. Um, but I figure InfoWars is open game now. I'm so thoroughly. It's still, all the complaints about how the vaccine, how the GMIs are causing all the problems. I said that 3 times now. This could be a problem. Um, it wouldn't surprise me if it is. Maybe I ought to cut this off so I can get loaded up to LBRY. So I will finish here in a minute. Um, they just will not hold Trump accountable. He's the one that pushed it down the road, and they will not say it. Oh, they kind of glossed around it, saying, "Oh, I wish he hadn't done that. Oh, he was trying to give us a better choice, a less dangerous this, that." No, it's all BS. And Infowars will not do the right thing. So I have very little respect for them. So that's why I'm doing my live stream during Infowars. I mean, you don't like me talking about, but I think AJ did a lot of good for a lot of people over a number of years. But as it's going right now, it's almost like he was, and I don't think he is, but it's almost like he is a limited hangout now. That his whole purpose of doing everything he did was to get so that when the AC, and I do consider Trump to be the AC, comes on site, that he can give him all these accolades. I don't know, but it doesn't make any sense that they will not show where the responsibility for this horrible thing that's going on is, and it rests with Trump, 100%. Richard Morris, you're asking me about an email list. Yeah, I've often thought about that. I don't know that I'm not emasculating myself here. Um, I just don't, I needed to say the things that I've said, again, selfishly, so that I could push off this karma. Of course, I want people to be informed, but my voice is so small. Look at David Knight. He's got like 130,000 followers on Twitter. I've got what? Of course, they lowered me several thousand. I think I'm down to 17,000. The point is, my influence is very small. That's the first thing. So I haven't done it for that reason. And there's another reason, and that is that some things happened not long ago. Um, you remember the Chinese, at least that it was blamed on the Chinese. The Office of Personnel Management was hacked, okay? And a lot of information got out. So I have to be very careful about what I put out on the internet. I'll just put it that way, at least on social media. And that's the reason. And I get into some more detail, but I just think it's probably better that I don't. New Age religion pushers. Well, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about there. Oh, Mrs. Cat. Okay, we know each other from Monty's channel. Okay, I'll send you a DM on Twitter. Outstanding. Thank you, Miss Cat. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yeah, we are immersed in Babylonian magic. That's exactly right. That's why the Pope went to Ur. Remember, I talked about that. So did Amy J. Media, right? She talked about it. Let's see, who else did? Jonah of Nineveh, Michael on Twitter. Mark Taylor. I get his names confused. It's either Taylor Marshall or Marshall Taylor. One of the two. I forget which way it goes. He's a Catholic commentator, has a YouTube channel. He talked about what this was all about. Yes, the world is immersed in Babylonian, and also, well, it would be the same thing. Babylonian magic, Babylonian religion, Moloch. That's why they're doing this thing with killing all these different people in all these different ways. It's all ritual. It's all ritual. Yeah, David Knight has a podcast. You can get all that information on davidknight.com. Okay. Alan Watt has passed away. Really? I didn't know that. If it's the one I'm thinking of. Just a dumb blonde. I don't know who you're talking to. Are you talking to me when you push New Age religion like Oprah? You get no respect from those of us who see the truth, repent. I don't know who you're talking to, Just. All I'll say is this, okay? Traditional Christianity, I hate to tell you, is missing some things. It's missing some things. You've had 2,000 years of people trying to subvert the message. I'm not going to spend this program explaining that. I'm just going to tell you I've been studying this stuff most of my life, especially within the original languages in the last 30 years, but I studied for 20 years before that, plus when I was a little kid. I've been through this entire thing from a lot of different angles, okay? A lot of people, Jesus was the one who said about signs in the heavens. Are you going to consider that New Age? And he was talking about the constellations. He was talking about that. It's exactly what it was. But you don't know that because you didn't read it in the original languages. You don't know that. Again, I'm not going to spend much time here, but there is some truth in what, not the current modern day Gnosticism, okay, or New Age religion stuff. But if you go back to the Dead Sea Scrolls, if you go back to what James said, the book of James in the New Testament, they weren't even going to put that in there because it wasn't Pauline enough. Go read the book of James, the Epistle of James. Go read it. It's nothing like the Pauline epistles. Very, very different. Paul quoted it sometime, and I'm not going to get into that, but the fact of the matter is that you really don't know what you're talking about. Okay? I'm not pushing New Age religion. I'm pushing the original theology, the original theocracy, actually. I consider myself a Jamesian Christian, okay? And I'm not going to explain what that is, but investigation is important. And if you haven't properly investigated, you cannot make a judgment call. And then there's a corollary to that: condemnation before investigation is really stupid. That's all I'm going to say to you. Okay. All right. It's been 52 minutes. I really need to get this up on LBRY because YouTube could come in and shut this thing down, and then it won't load up. Book of Enoch is good. I went to the back. Mike Wazowski. Is that Wazowski? Book of Enoch is pretty good. Key, New Age era. Yeah, there's a lot of New Age stuff in the Book of Enoch. And by the way, it didn't make it in the Bible because, it wasn't thrown out of the Bible. It was never put in. The Book of Enoch, the Book of Jasher, right? The Maccabees were included in the Catholic version of the Bible, but not in the King James. Why? Because there is a lot of truth to that. That's why the New Age stuff, you got to be careful about what you're calling New Age. So thank you for putting that up there, Mr. Is it Mr.? Yeah, Mike Wazowski. Very, very good. Trey Fannin on the pyramids. Yeah, I don't consider, frankly, there's a problem with people saying that the pyramids are just Luciferian, okay? They could be used to generate energy. I'm not an expert on that, but I will tell you this: is everybody listening? Listen to me, okay? There are the three pyramids of Giza, three, right? How is Christianity viewed? Father, Son, Holy Ghost. What is the name pyramid? What is pyramid in Egyptian? What is it, or in Greek? What does it mean? And the Egyptian word for pyramid, the hieroglyph, is a loaf of bread. Pyramid means house of the wheaten cake, house of the loaf of bread. Guess what? What does Beit Lechem mean? Bethlehem. What does it mean? House of the wheaten cake, house of the loaf of bread. So the things in Egypt are very closely tied to the early Israelite religion, indeed the religion of Abraham. They're all tied together. But things get corrupted over time. Jesus, when he was a young man, he had to, a baby, had to flee from Herod, right? And where did he go? Egypt. Why? Well, the place he went in Egypt was a place called On. On is the Egyptian word for the Hebrew word Beth Shemesh, which is in Greek Heliopolis. It's all the same place. It means city of the sun. And in On, the last high priest, legitimate high priest during the Maccabean dynasty, the Maccabean rule in Judea, the last legitimate high priest built a temple in On to commemorate, because On is in Goshen, which is where the Israelites settled, which is where Father Jacob settled. And it was a very righteous place until they left, until after the slavery and all that, and then they left. But then a group of people went back, probably after the Babylonian invasion, went to Egypt and built up the place of On again. All right, so you see, when you see the Luciferians grab these symbols, it doesn't mean the symbols are bad. They've just twisted it for their own purpose. Remember, pyramid means house of bread or house of the wheaten cake. Bethlehem means the house of bread. All right? Why? And Jesus was born where? In Bethlehem. So what were the Egyptian pyramids actually telling us about prophecy? That the Savior would come to the house of the wheaten cake, house of bread. That was the name of the place where he was born. Didn't know that, did you? I've talked about it before on my religion series. Okay. I pontificated enough. I got to go. Let's get this up. Thank you all for coming. Remember, Monty's youstooge.com. Go see David Knight with his interview with Stephen Schellenberger. I'll just tell you up front, Stephen Schellenberger's experience exactly duplicates mine in a lot of ways. I was never as successful at filmmaking as he was and all that, but the things that he talks about that have happened to him, especially with MK Ultra individuals and stuff like that, it happened exactly to me. Right, that was the other thing I was going to say, Felicia. Thank you. Yeah, look how the Luciferians use the rainbow now, and the LGBT. Yeah, they took that wonderful symbol and they defiled it and took it and twisted it and corrupted it. Exactly. Thank you, Felicia. I was going to say that, and if you hadn't brought it up, I would have totally, because I get to talking too much. You know how I am. All these other things start. I'm kind of like Lionel Nation in that regard. They start down a path, and then he thinks, oh, well, this comes in, and oh, this comes in, and I got to mention this, and then by the time you get there, then you forget what your main theme was. Okay, wonderful. I'm going to go, everybody. I want to thank you all for coming, and like I said, go check out David Knight, go check out Monty, and look at on David Knight's thing, Stephen Schellenberger's interview, and on Monty, keep track and watch for him going up on youstooge.com. All right, thanks everybody. I'm out for the day. Again, my coloring is due, and I've had this problem so many times. My camera does not have a white balance adjustment, and so these lights, if I didn't use any lights, I'd probably look normal. But then you might not be able to see me or see. Oh, anyway, you understand. So it's the lighting that does that. I'm not sunburned. I'm not intoxicated, not yet. If Nancy's watching, I think she and I, start doing our little thing about 3 p.m, 4, something like that. By the way, she told me she got a bottle of Johnny Walker's Blue Label. And I've heard about it. I know about the Johnny Walker line. I hope you don't get mad at me, Nancy, but I got to tell this story. It was Nancy that got me really into Scotch. Okay, it was really her. She started me off with Lefroy, which is an Islay malt Scotch. That's very much like drinking a barbecued beef brisket. First time I tasted it, I went, "Why did she tell me to get this? Oh God, it's horrible!" But it kind of grows on you, and then I also use it in some of my own blends. But at any rate, so then she talked about some others, and then the other night she said that her husband had gone and gotten her a bottle of Blue Label Johnny Walker. And I thought, well, that's right. I've had regular Johnny Walker, and I've had Johnny Walker Black, and even the Jane Walker. I think I tried that once, but I never even really thought about Johnny Walker Blue. Well, I saw it in the liquor store the other day. Do you know how much a bottle of that stuff is? Oh my gosh. It's like $250 a bottle, and it's just 750 milliliters. And I said, "Well, that's out. I'm not going to be trying that. No, 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 no. That's a little bit over my head. I think the most I've ever spent on a bottle, and Scotch is, I won't spend a lot of money on regular like bourbon or Tennessee whiskey. I won't spend, $20, $30 a bottle tops, maybe 40. The only time I'll go over that is on a really good Irish whiskey, like Redbreast, like I had that one night when I was telling you about. If you saw that live stream, or we'll skip that now. But anyway, people who watch me will know what I talked about there. I had a blend called Bushmills Red Bush, and to balance that out, to show that I like the whole package, I brought up that I was drinking Redbreast Irish whiskey. But most of you will know what I'm talking about, I think, if you were watching that show. But in Scotch, I've gone as high as about $90 a bottle, and then after that, getting expensive Scotch. I don't, you get to the point of diminishing returns. The cost really doesn't justify the quality increase, in my estimation. It becomes more of a status thing, so I don't do that. $90 is as much as Wild Turkey's not bad, especially Wild Turkey 101. If you want it to work quick, that's a good way to go. All right, I'm out of here, everybody. I hope you have a great day. Again, we're in a lot of trouble, and people are pointing the fingers in the wrong direction. Trump, well, he is the guy of Bush. Trump has put us where we are. He's the one that first locked down the country. He's the one that brought in Fauci and Birx. He's the one that pushed the Gates, Gavi, GMI, and all of that. Funded it with your money, and now everybody in the world is facing this whole thing, and it's very dangerous. Let's hold the people responsible for it that have really caused the problem. Okay. All right. I'm going to head out. Y'all take care. All right. See you next time.